Hi guys, so we're going to continue with our discussion of operant conditioning tonight. So when we last left off, we were talking about how often should we reinforce. So Skinner called this schedules of reinforcement. So he asked, do we need to give a reward every single time in order for the behavior to be modified, or is that even the best way to do it? So he experimented with the effects of giving reinforcements in different patterns, or schedules as he called them, to determine what worked best to establish and maintain a targeted behavior. So not just form it initially, but to continue it over time. So in continuous reinforcement, which is giving a reward after the target every single time, so every single time the rat pulled that lever, he got a reward, the subject acquires the desired behavior very quickly. In partial/intermittent reinforcement, meaning you give rewards part of the time, the target behavior takes longer to be acquired/established, but persists longer without reward. So that's pretty interesting. If you get a reward every single time, you expect a reward every single time. So when you don't receive a reward, the behavior kind of goes away. But with this intermittent reinforcement, it takes longer to establish, but it persists over time. Maybe because you're not so dependent on getting that reward. So let's look at these a little bit. So, for example, Skinner said that we may schedule our reinforcements based on an interval of time that has gone by, and so this would be a fixed interval schedule. So maybe every hour you would get a reward versus a variable interval schedule, which is a reward after a changing or a random amount of time passes, so you never know when you're going to get a reward. On the other hand, we may plan for a certain ratio of rewards per number of instances of the desired behavior. So meaning on a fixed ratio schedule, you would get a reward for, say, every 5 targeted behavior. Every 5 times you did something that the experimenter wanted you to do, you would get a reward then. Or also there's the variable ratio schedule, which means you would get a reward randomly chosen after a randomly chosen instance of the targeted behavior. So it's every time. Fixed ratio is kind of every so often, but with a definite pattern, so every 5, for example. Variable, it's kind of random. So you can see how this would have different effects on the behavior. So let's go through different scenarios and see if we can figure out which schedule of reinforcement we're looking at. Is it ratio or interval? Is it fixed or variable? So a rat gets food every 3rd time it presses the lever. What would that be? A fixed ratio. So every third time he gets a reward. How about getting paid weekly no matter how much work is done? That would be a fixed interval. How about getting paid for every 10 boxes you make? Fixed ratio. So every 10 boxes, no matter what you do, you get a reward. So it's fixed. How about hitting a jackpot sometimes on the slot machine? That would be a variable ratio because keyword here, sometimes. So it's varied. How about winning sometimes on the lottery? You play once a day. That could be a variable interval or a variable ratio because you're playing once a day, but you only win sometimes, so it's definitely varied. But whether it's an interval or a ratio depends. About checking your cell phone all day, like we all do, but you only get a text sometimes. That'd be a variable interval. How about buying 8 pizzas and you get the next one free? That'd be a fixed ratio, because after every 8 pizzas, you get a reward. That's free pizza. The fundraiser averages 1 donation for every 8 houses visited. What would that be? That would be a variable ratio. Kid has a tantrum and the parents sometimes give in. What would that be? A varied ratio. You get the point. One more. Repeatedly checking the mail until paycheck arrives. A fixed interval, because you know that the paycheck is coming at some point, and you're checking it over and over and over again, but finally, when the paycheck arrives, randomly, you get your reward. So the results of some of these different schedules of reinforcement, meaning which reinforcements produce more responding or more targeted behavior. The fixed interval, for example, is slow and unsustained responding. So, for example, if I'm only paid for my Saturday work, I'm not going to work as hard on the other days, right? And you can see how that plays out here. How about this? The variable interval is a slow, consistent responding. So if I never know which day my lucky lottery number will pay off, I better play it every day, right? Because you never know when it's going to come, you got to play it safe and always play it because it might come that day, and you'd be pretty pissed if you didn't play that day, and that's the day you won the lottery, right? So again, the fixed ratio. There's a very, very high rate of responding. Buy 2 drinks, get 1 free. I'll buy a lot of them, right? So you know what's coming. So you do the behavior because you are sure that you're going to get rewarded. But this variable ratio, there's a high, consistent responding, even if reinforcement stops. So this variable ratio kind of has a greater effect because you don't know whether it's going to come. So it's like the last one where you're playing the lottery every day just to make sure. So this is why slot machines are so attractive and suck so much of people's money, because if the slot machine sometimes pays, you'll pull the lever as many times as possible because it might pay this time. You never know. Alright, so that's where we're going to stop today. Tune in next time, folks. Have a good evening.